up, folks? Sean the Average Angler. It is Wednesday. Just home from work. As you can see, I got my duds on still. I've been battling a migraine for a couple of days, so I'm trying to get the video in when I'm feeling halfway decent. So today we are going to slow it down just a little bit, because with the migraine it's slowing me down, so we'll slow down a little bit. It is winter. We've talked reaction baits in deep water the last couple days. Now we're gonna go to a finesse technique, just flat out catches them. Spinning rod, BFS, whatever you use. I'm a spinning rod guy. For this technique, I really like this 731 spinning iRod. Reason being, this is the rod that I showed you guys a while back that had a lot of tip, right? And with this technique, that can be advantageous, because one thing we don't want to do when we're trying to fish a bait slowly on the bottom, we don't want to move that bait too much. So feel is important. Now the other route you can go, and I do this, is to a shorter rod. Just because it gives us a little better feel as we move that tip. It's not moving the bait quite as much. So there's a couple different routes you can go. I'm sure you can do it with something you have at home if you want to get something super sweet like this 731 iRod, which is also what I really like for the lighter swim baits, like 2.8, 3.3 Kitech on a ball head. Phenomenal rod for that. Okay, really allows the fish to suck the bait in before we set on them. Okay, the rod loads before they feel it. Really nice. Also cast light baits really well. All right, so today we are going to talk about finesse technique that popped up a few years back called the Ned. The Ned has a ton of different baits. Okay, I'm going to keep it relatively simple. I've got like 5 or 6 baits here. Okay, and I wish I could say one's my favorite, but what I really noticed is it seems it's a different bait that works really, really well every year. Maybe it's a confidence thing. And we've talked about how important confidence is, having confidence in what we're doing. Neds come in all sizes and shapes, right? You got the little open hook models like there, Weedless model there. This is a ball head, but Bass Union has a Ned, and there's a couple other companies have a Ned. It's just round instead of flat. It's doing the same thing. Okay, this here is an Xzone True Stick, I believe they're called, True Center Stick. Okay, I just cut it off at the front of the egg sac to shorten it up, and we probably have like a 3.5 inch. I also like the Yum Dingers for this, because the Yum Dingers, unlike the Senkos, are not filled with salt. Nowadays, I believe they have the floating Neds. Yamamoto does. But anyway, there's a ton of baits on the market. You don't necessarily need to go out and buy baits. If you have Senkos, you can shorten the Senkos up. You have Yum Dingers, shorten them up. That's probably one of the best buys on the market. I think they're like $2.99 or $3.99 for a pack, like this here. They come in 4, 5, 6 inch. So there's all kinds of them. Now, what started it all, the little Z-Man Elastec Ned, right? Got my little Z-Man head here. You see that small hook, right? That's small. And these, we're just gonna thread it on. And as far as line for these, I'm still going to use my braid to leader. If I'm throwing something like this, I'm gonna drop down to 6 to 8 pounds. This one here's a little bit heavier. And your rods can change with this too, right? That 731 I really like for something really light like this one. The Elastec it's very buoyant, so it floats. That head there, it's a small head. Okay, you see here, this one's quite a bit heavier. Okay, and this one here is a 3/16. I can about throw it on anything I want. A 702, 712, and a spinning rod, something like that. Fine for these. Okay, now these, you have an open hook. very small bait. I like that softer rod for those. I don't need the hook setting power so much with an open or exposed hook. A couple other baits that I really like. One I couldn't find, they're in the boat, is going to be an Xzone Ned Bomb. They will be in the link in the description below. And this is a Missle baits, what do they call it? Ned Bomb. So maybe I'm wrong on the Xzone one. Anyway, I will find it, put it on there. Their tail, this one's flat. As you can see there, the Xzone is more of a bulb on the end, if you will. Okay, both are very, very good. Missle has some great color combinations, okay? And the Ned Bomb, this one's MM3. They've got a wide assortment of colors. You don't need to really get into a ton of different baits. If you wanted to, my two choices, I would probably, if I only could pick two, is probably going to be that Finesse TRD, and then I'm probably going to go with a 4-inch Yum Dinger. Okay, the price of the Yum Dingers is hard to beat. They've got great colors. And the profile is a proven fish catcher. Okay, these are not baits that we trigger bites with. And then you have something like this Robo worm, which is a 4.5-inch Ned worm. And I've never really done real well on these, to be honest with you. I've caught plenty of fish on MM3 Robo worms, so I'm pretty sure that it's probably me that hasn't spent the time with it and figured that one out yet. So, fishing the Ned bait. Perhaps one of the easiest baits to fish that can cause many of us to still struggle. Okay, it's a slow bait. I mean, you look at these, they're small, right? Any self-respecting bass is going to have no problem eating either of those. I think the problem gets to be, we need to move them. We don't have to necessarily fish them slow, but we need to move them in small increments. Nothing that size is going to jump up and move 6 feet, right? It's just not going to happen. Something that size is probably just going to struggle. And you look at how that moves back there. Elastec is phenomenal. Not to mention, once you find the color, you're going to be good for quite a while. This bait will stand up. The Robos, I'm ashamed to say, they don't float. I've put them in a bowl, they do not float. The Yum Dinger does not float. The True Center Stick does not float, but I believe their Ned thing does. The Missle baits, I don't know. That said, there's some other brands that have elastics. There's some Strike King baits. There's some other newer companies that have their formula, what they call it, a few different things. But anyway, it's all the same type of thing. Don't overthink the bait part of it. I think the important part is how you fish it. So we don't want to move it in big increments. We want to move it a little bit. Do you have to stop? Well, maybe for a second and then go again. Stop for a second, go. Stop for a second and go. We want to keep it on the bottom and we want it to just move. Well, while you're moving that head, it's going to cause that tail to vibrate on this one. Now you can use a lot of the other Z-Man products, and actually I've gotten really into those in place of fishing a Ned rig at times, using them on a shaky head, something like the Fatty Z. Okay, I love the Fatty Z. They also have a new Fatty Z in the Ned size bait. Okay, phenomenal worm. Those are packed in the boat too. I've got this big, huge Z-Man bag. All that stuff it's in the boat. It stays in the boat. I need to use it more, you know. Where to throw these? Well, pretty much anywhere you expect to find fish, but let's fish the obvious spots, right? Points, sides of points, look for bait. Steeper walls. Wintertime, fish want to move up and down, easy. They don't want to cover a lot of ground. They want to be able to go up and down. That's easy for the fish. They can come up, go down. Guts are still going to be good places. Look, there's one key thing that you need to consider at all times. And one of the ways that I used to find these and locate them before graphs got so good and all that kind of stuff is I threw a 3/4 ounce jig and I could feel the bottom. And that one thing is hard spots. Bass love hard spots. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is, okay? We are looking for hard spots. When you locate hard spots, that's where we want to put the time to try and catch that fish, get them to bite. Most fish are going to eat something like this or this, right? They're small baits. This is essentially a Senko on a jig head. This is essentially a Senko on an open hook Ned head. If you're throwing into cover, get a weedless presentation. If you're throwing in open water, hey, these are hard to beat, folks, because the fish eat it and they're hooked. It's pretty simple. But give a Ned head a try. Spend some time with it. If you're new to fishing, look, I know this can be overwhelming and it can require a huge investment. But that said, you can start Ned rigging, probably with some things you have, and just go get yourself some heads, okay? Get yourself some heads like that. I think that one's an owner blockhead, I think they call it. Get yourself some Ned baits. Doesn't have to be the Z-Man, could be the Missle. It could be Senkos. If you have Senkos at home, hey, you may not need to go buy anything. Very simple. Just shorten it up. Or if you get a 3-inch Senko, I have all kinds of Senkos. 3-inch Senko, the thin Senkos, the Pro Senkos, they're all different. And go out there with a Ned head and spend a little time fishing that Ned head. Now, I'll fish these down in deep water. You're just going to change the size of the head. But again, these will fall pretty fast. If you have a 3-inch Senko or even this Ned on the back, it'll fall pretty fast like this, okay? There's not much drag on the bait when it's going down like that, so you can get them down pretty deep and then just fish it slow. Drag it around a little bit, shake it a little bit, and then pick up and move if you don't get bit. But if you do that a few times, I'm pretty sure you're going to get bit, okay? Sean the Average Angler, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. We're going to see you on the next one.